Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Civil Lining Nation. And today I have my friend Jeff with me, and Jeff has 19 years, y'all. And Jeff was one of the people who was in the rooms when I came into the 12 step. And guys, as you can see, he's all tatted. I used to think, and I still do, that Jeff was one of the coolest guys in the room, y'all. So when he would share and tell about his experience, I used to be on the edge of my seat because I knew when Jeff would share that he had something that was going to be interesting, and I also knew that it was going to be funny and that I was going to get some laughing in. You guys know how much I like to laugh. So I'm going to let Jeff tell his story. And Jeff, welcome to Civil Lining Nation, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for asking me. I guess you ran out of people. It's been like 3 years you've been doing this, I think.
No,
so I'm like the bottom of the barrel.
Not 3 years.
Not that I have a resentment or anything.
Oh no, you don't have to put me on your fourth step.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So yeah, my name's Jeff, and I've been sober 19 years. My drug of choice was cocaine, hydrocodone, heroin, meth. Always had a beer or whiskey in my hand.
You were rolling with the big boys.
Yeah, the bikers taught me how to mix coke, meth, and heroin together. We called it a triple bypass, and we do key bumps, and it was great until it wasn't.
You said it was great.
It was great. You just go like that, until it wasn't anymore. Yeah. But I work in the music business, and it was acceptable, to party, so we would, in fact, one of my bosses would tell me to drink 2 beers and do a line of cocaine before I would touch his guitars. And we always had a tour manager that would babysit us and look after us. And we'd just go city to city, and it was just a party. It was just a party on the bus, and it's not like that anymore. Now it's more corporate, but at the time it was just like, man, it was just, it was the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be in a band, but I didn't have any talent. So I figured I'd work for the bands and live that lifestyle.
Still get all the props that you would get.
Exactly. Yeah. So I did that, but I ended up starting to get fired from bands or quitting from bands because, I needed my drugs, and you can't get drugs in certain cities. And, and I would be hanging out with the Hells Angels in the West Coast and miss my bus call. And it got bad. It got really bad. And it became one of those things to where my ego, I was like, I'm doing great because I'm hanging out with rock stars, but I was at the end, I was 32. I was living with my parents, and I had a big old chipped tooth, from all the meth I did. And I think that's one of the first things we do when we get our teeth fixed, and I was so ashamed of that. I remember one of my old drug dealers, he would tell me, why don't you ever smile? Because I was embarrassed to smile because I had that big chipped tooth. And so I never smiled. So that was something I learned to do when I came to was smile. And I was very standoffish, and I had an ego. And I remember, just being scared and feeling alone.
Were you scared because you didn't think you could get it, or were you scared because you thought that it would change Jeff?
I didn't want to get it.
Okay.
I didn't want to get it.
Why?
I don't know. I kind of thought that there was a VIP room in hell, and I was a lost cause, and I was an example of what not to be. And that was my place. And whenever my parents, I'd been to rehabs. I mean, I've been to rehab since I was like 11 years old. There was a thing called tough love. And then, I got busted for a DWI and spent 30 days at Loose Sterrett, and, or over a month at Loose Sterrett. And then I had to go straight from there to Hot Springs to the Claw Paw House, and went to rehab, and of course met a girl, and did outpatient. Stopped going to meetings. She drank, so I drank, and but I just, I like doing drugs. I like drinking. I felt like I was in a club. I felt like I belonged.
And without it, you didn't feel like you were a part of anything?
I thought like I was exclusive. It was like being secret squirrel, is exciting,
Yes.
sneaking in the bathroom
Oh, yeah.
stall and, and just, hiding it, and just the
It's the secret that this is something that I'm doing nobody knows about.
The danger,
Yes.
the getting busted and,
Yes.
and all those things, and I remember being on probation. I failed 5 UAs in a row, and I was in a this thing called Addicare, which was a rehab facility, and I didn't realize people actually wanted to get sober. That made no sense to me.
Yeah.
And I thought people were there because they were court ordered, like me, and I just I remember. I've had a breathalyzer on my car, and I'd tell my fiance at the time to run down and blow on it. And you were talking about that the other day in the meeting,
Yeah.
and I remember the trick was, I remember you talking about your son, and the trick was is I'd have my fiance come down and blow in it, and then I would know how much time I would haul ass to work before, and I would get there because the alcohol would still be so strong on my breath from the night before. And then I'd leave there.
To beat it before it
started beeping. Again. Yeah. And then I knew how much time I would go to Lake Dallas, and I'd buy a 6-pack in Addison, and I would know when I could start drinking a beer to get to Lake Dallas to buy a 12-pack to go home and drink that 12-pack, and then start the whole thing over again. And I got it down to a system. It was.
I totally understand that.
Alcoholics are the smartest people in the world.
They are.
And drug addicts, we blow crack pipes out of light bulbs, and bongs out of apples, and you name it. We'll figure out how to do it.
Car antennas. So yeah.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah, I didn't know about driving from one place before the car beat. Yeah, I didn't know about the breathalyzer beeping off and driving from one place to the other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just learned that one from you.
See?
The things we learn from each other.
I know, right? And I learned stuff when I was in jail. God.
Oh my God, that's where you learn.
That's where you find the lower coke prices.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I hit the jail. It was nothing but Telemundo and Flavor TV until I got up in a rehab unit, and then it was Seinfeld, and I was like, okay, I'm cool. But I failed 5 UAs, and I couldn't be truthful with anybody. I remember calling my dad, and they were like, "We're taking you to jail," and I was like, "It's a mistake. They made a mistake. They mixed up 5 UAs."
That wasn't mine.
But I would know that they're testing me the next day, and I'd go out and do cocaine that night, thinking that maybe a tsunami would come to Dallas, Texas, or the world would end, or the probation department would forget, or something, just whatever, and I would still have to do drugs that night. And I don't know, knowing that my life was in jeopardy, it did not stop me.
I didn't, you mentioned earlier that you didn't know why anybody would want to get sober.
Yeah.
I can understand that. When I came into the 12 steps room, I thought all you guys were lying, that you wasn't really sober.
Yeah.
That you were closet addicts and alcoholics. That's what I thought. Because I didn't think it's not possible to get sober. I didn't think that, y'all. It's like everybody does this. How do you deal with life without drugging and drinking?
Right.
That's how my mind worked.
Right.
And that's what a scary place.
Yeah. And the one thing that really helped me is someone told me that, if you want to go get a beer, go get a beer. And I was like, oh, I can do that? And they were like, yeah, if you want to drink, go drink. And I was like, oh, they didn't say don't drink. And when I first got sober, and I don't recommend this to anybody, but so when I first got sober, I did everything wrong, and I don't recommend this for anybody. But I hung out with my drug dealer every night, and I kept a 12-pack of beer beside my bed, just knowing that I could, if I wanted to, help me. And I do not recommend that to anybody because it'll drive you crazy. And I also did not plan on staying sober. I did not think I was an alcoholic. And it was not until after I worked the steps that I realized that I caught alcoholism. And after I did my fourth step, I realized that I started with alcohol and ended with alcoholism. And if you sucked the cocaine out of me at any time, I always had a drink in my hand. But I didn't think I was an alcoholic or anything of that nature. I just thought, I was a recreational junkie. I just like sticking a needle in my arm. But see, the thing is, Lorena, is that I always had rules for myself, and one of them was I would never smoke cocaine. Did that. I would never sell drugs. Did that. I would never shoot up, and I did that. But I never shot myself up, so I was never a true drug addict or a true junkie. So I always had someone else shoot me up. So I don't consider myself a true junkie. So
I didn't consider myself a true addict because I could always afford to buy my own drugs.
Oh, you're one of those high.
Yeah, I could buy my own drugs, and I didn't have to do all these gross things that other women would have to do.
Or men.
Yeah. But I could afford it. So I always dressed up when I wear my makeup, and I always looked nice because I didn't want to look like an addict or a crackhead. But that didn't mean that I wasn't.
Well, Eric, because let me tell you something. I can't tell you how many times I've been in these bad apartments that are like, you're getting ready to be rolled. You better get the hell out of here. And one of the biker gangs I hung out near the State Fair Park has a biker compound down there. So you're not so high end after all.
No, I just thought I was.
Right. Hanging out just to the nines.
Yeah, it's like here she comes. They used to ask me to let them see my fingers.
To see if you had burn marks on it, if you were smoking crack, to see if you're a cop or not.
Yes, because they were suspicious of me. So they would look at my fingers, and then they would sell to me.
One time it was funny because I went to a topless bar down in a really bad neighborhood, and with a friend of mine that all these rock stars hung out with because nobody would ever go to this topless bar. It was like, it was bad. So there were some couple of Hispanic gentlemen, and they were probably drug dealers or cartellers, whatever. And my friend was drinking, and I was having a soda, and they knew I wasn't drinking. So this girl comes up to me and she says, "Hey, you want to dance?" I'm like, "No, I'm cool. I'm just here with my friend, for a minute." And she goes, "Well, these guys think you're a cop because you're not drinking." And I'm like, "No, I'm not a cop. I'm just I don't drink." And they're like, "Well, you better leave."
Yeah, you can't hang out.
And I've also been fired for a job for not drinking too.
Really?
Yeah. When I went on a tour, I got fired from a job because I wasn't drinking.
So how did that work in the beginning when you got sober, Jeff? How did you avoid, they always want to give the DJs and people that are in the band a shot. How did that work for you?
Well, one of the things is when I first got sober, I started getting into corporate audio video. So I started working with corporate stuff, and that kept me out of that. But even then, I remember I would travel a lot, and they would be drinking and everything, and they all thought I was a narc, until one of my buddies who I used to tour with went out with me, and he goes, "Oh no, I've done more cocaine with that guy than anything." Then they were all cool with me.
Yeah, you always have to that's what I learned when I would go get my drugs. You got to get in good with someone over in that area so they can vouch for you.
Yeah.
And I learned that, and I got to be where I was okay.
But the cool thing is I've been to meetings all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cool. I make time to, I'll take an Uber or whatever, and I go make a meeting. And I've, you know, they have English speaking meetings all over the world, and you just find one. And there was a guy named Rick, and and he would tell me that he collected these pamphlets, and he would ask for one for every city I went to. And I found out later he didn't collect them. He was just getting me to go to different groups.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. And so he would trick me doing that. Because I was like, one time I was like, oh yeah, Rick collects it. And they're like, no, he doesn't.
He's collecting them for you.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the guys in the program, the 12-step, how they help us.
Yeah.
You know, and I say a lot on Silver Lining, if I can give back half of what I've been given from those guys to other people that come along now, then, man, I mean, I can never repay what they gave to me.
Oh, 100%.
It's like, wow. You know, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for those guys.
I've had the best sponsors and friends, you know, and I think it's important to not just have a good sponsor. It's good to have a fellowship because a lot of times I'll be talking to my friends and they'll say, well, what did your sponsor say about that? And I'm like, well, I haven't talked to my sponsor about that. And they're like,
wow, what's wrong? I get that. They do. I love that.
You know, and, you know, like my group of friends is, we all hung out together, you know, and
I love seeing the group of you guys like last night when I saw you guys, it was like so cool.
Yeah.
You know, to see that.
I love those guys, you know, and, you know, we all, you know, me and Clay met for dinner Tuesday night, and we just BS and talk about everything.
And Michelle, I love Michelle. When I see all of you guys, it's like, I just remember when I came in, that was the group of guys. You guys were the group of people that I looked up to.
Yeah.
And I learned from, because you guys were just real, you know, and I just love when you would share. I would be on it, like I said earlier. Okay, it's coming.
I like funny people, you know.
Yeah.
And I like doing funny things in meetings. Like the other night, I stole John's sandals and threw them across the room, and he was looking for them, and he was like, "Where did they go?" Yeah.
I love that too. I mean, it's all like, I remember when I first came in, and when I would walk in, I would just I still do sometimes, especially when I see people that I know, and it's like being at Petco. You come and it's time to play. You know, you see all your friends, and it's like, you just get this joy.
Oh yeah, it's great.
It's like,
and you know they're going to share something good. That's the way I feel about you.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Like,
and I was talking to Daniel the other night, and he was talking about you, and he goes, "Man, she has gotten healthy." And I go, "Yeah, she has. She's great." You
that
know?
Means a lot coming from you guys.
Yeah,
that means a lot.
And it's true though. You know, I mean, you do a lot for the group. You know, you do a lot for the recovery community, and that's a huge thing. You know?
You guys were my role models. I mean, really. So, and you guys taught me not to take it. I mean, we had the serious people, and you know that we needed, like Lord Johnson, and you know,
I used to
Tom.
give Lloyd such a hard time.
Those guys.
I used to love just pushing his buttons.
Yeah. Oh, he would get it. You don't play around with it.
Oh, I did. I would just screw with him on purpose.
But it's different groups of people, right? I mean, they're like Lloyd and Tom and Carter.
Yeah,
and
I like Carter.
Van. They were our like leaders, so to speak. You know, they paved the way, and they taught us different things. Then you had the younger guys like you guys, and y'all would just laugh, and just the bikers. I mean, every Friday the bikers used to they have all their motorcycles, guys. It used to be so cool every
Do you remember
Friday.
Gary L?
Yes.
I remember he came at the birthday night one time, and there were all the bikers there. And he goes up to the podium, and he goes, I didn't realize I was coming to a, what did he say? I can't remember. Never mind. Cut it out. There's something like a Bikers Anonymous or a midlife crisis anonymous meeting or something. It was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah, that people talk about him so much.
He was crazy, but he was a good age.
And that says a lot when you're remembered like that. You know, it's like I interviewed Sydney here.
I love Sydney.
Oh my God. I was like, Sydney, would you be on Silver Lining? She's like, yeah. So I interviewed her at one of the libraries.
Leslie told me she watched that and she laughed her head off. I got to go back and watch that because I love Sydney.
Yes, she's amazing. Like she's another person that I learned. I remember sitting in a 12-step room in meeting and everybody's talking and saying, you know, all this stuff and you're just trying to get it right because you don't want to, you know, they tell you all this stuff going to happen. If you do this, you're going to drink. If you do that. And it got around to Sydney Sherman. She was like, I don't know what all the fuss is. All you got to do is don't drink. That's all she said. You know, it's like when it's time for you to receive the message, get it.
Yeah.
Right? And when she said that, she was like, you won't get drunk if you don't drink. It's that simple. And it was like, that's all I have to do.
And she has the best sense of humor.
Oh, man. And she laughs at herself.
Yeah. She has the best sense of humor.
And it's like, and then she busts out and starts laughing.
Yeah.
And the whole room laughs.
She always comes up and gives me a big kiss.
I love her.
I love her.
Yeah.
You know, her, John Diggins, Caroline. Yeah. There's you know, Frank and Sheila. I mean, there's some, my sponsor, Rick H. I love him to death. Gary C. Christy.
Yeah.
There's so many good. And if I left anybody out, obviously there's so many. I can't mention them. Fred. You know, Fred.
Fred was on. He's been on.
He's that crazy old man. God. He's a coot.
It's the Amigos. It's like 3 of them.
Yeah.
And they call the Amigos.
Oh, really?
They go around and they, So I was like, no, I've not heard of the Amigos, but now I know. So, yeah, I learned a lot. I used to follow him. You know, we used to go to Maggie's.
Yeah.
I follow those guys everywhere they went because, I didn't know how to not drink and not drug. So these guys would tell me about going with them. And I think we were talking about 12-step where you help people, 12-step calls, you know, and those guys taught me what a 12-step call was, how to do a 12-step call, because I had no idea that you actually needed to cure alcohol with a person, you know, doing a 12-step call sometimes because they would be so shaky, and
I could kill them.
Yeah, I didn't. When I couldn't grasp that concept when I went with them, and
it can also be very dangerous.
But these guys knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
and it was like it was amazing to experience that.
Yeah,
you know, to be able to go on a 12-step call. They don't do that much anymore because they have other means of people to be able to go. I guess they can go and get detox. But back then, I guess they didn't have that option.
Yeah, you know, back in the old days, they literally would do the sponsor would write out the 4 steps because the alcoholic, because they would do the steps in one day.
Wow.
And the sponsor would actually write out the 4 steps for them because they would be too jittery. You know, and I learned that from Fred. Fred and Lloyd used to do a step study together. And
I never went to one of their, but I knew they did.
Yeah, it was really good, you know, really good.
And that's why I try to get like those old timers. I want to learn from them so that when they're gone, it's not the program that the things that they knew doesn't go with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you're already there. You're already passing it on.
I'm trying.
You know,
I'm trying.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're already kind of like a pillar that's just passing it on.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, really, everything is just one alcoholic talking to another and then sharing their experience.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no proven method that works for what works for one person doesn't work for another.
Right.
You know, like we were talking about before the meeting, you know, like, you know, if there was a junkie, I would get them, they would send them my way. If there was a tattoo guy, they would send me that my way. If there was a guy into heavy metal, send them to Jeff, you know.
Because they can relate to you.
Yeah, you know, and the funny thing was, is they're like, oh, this guy's into music or in the music business, send him with Jeff. I hate music. And I'd have these sponsees that would want to talk about music. And I'm like, I do not want to talk about music. I could care less about music. You know, I just want to talk about the recovery.
Yes.
You know, that's what we're here for. You know, and they're like, well, what do you think about this band?
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah, I want to get into the program. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And that's why when I work with another person and I sponsor someone, I always meet at the group, because I want you to know when I meet with you, we're not meeting to chat.
Yeah.
We're meeting to get into the program.
Yeah.
Because that's what was not with me. So I don't have a lot of patience for, I just want to meet and do that.
I've had to learn that the hard way. You know, I had a, you know, just through experience, you know, I had a sponsee stay at my house when I was out of town. And he relapsed and destroyed it.
Oh my God.
And, you know, and I had a sponsor that I love, and he sponsored me, and he sponsored Clay, and he sponsored John. And like, I remember he's the best, because he would do little tricks, you know, and like I was doing a 4-step one time, and he goes, and I go, you know, I don't think I'm really angry at anybody. And he said, well, why don't you write a list of people you think owe you amends? And I just went to town. And then I would always ask him, you know, when am I going to get married, Jeff? When am I going to get married? When do I get mine? I'm seeing everybody else go out and meet everybody, you know, and then I was calling him and complaining about my wife and my kids screaming and just everything crazy in my house. And he just goes, I'm glad you got everything you wanted, and hung up. And, you know.
Did your sponsor used to hang up on you a lot?
Huh?
Did he used to hang up on
you?
you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tanya did.
Yeah. Tanya's great.
Oh.
She's funny.
I love her. But
I remember when she came in too. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. She's always hang up. You prayed about it? No, I'm calling. Hang up.
Yeah.
Right in the hang up. Click.
Yeah.
It's like, what's wrong with this woman?
my sponsor now is so much different, because like I love my sponsor now, because he shares just his experience. You know,
and I try to remember that.
He doesn't tell me what to do. He only offers his experience, and I try to do the same, even though I don't have a sponsee right now. And I've had you know,
you probably have had a lot.
I have over the years, but and I've had some very tragic things happen. You know, you know, one, you know, Trevor, you know, who, which we had to do, find him. You know, he drank himself to death, and I had another sponsee who committed suicide with a gun, and you know, there's been some very tragic things, and if you stick around long enough, you know, there's you go to a lot of funerals, but you also go to a lot of weddings, and a lot of hospitals for births.
Yeah,
you know, so there's good things and bad things.
There's one saying that really, I don't like this saying, and I'm going to tell you why, and then I want your opinion. The newcomer is the most important person in the room. I know why they say that, but speaking of, you know, Travis and other people that we've known in recovery with long-term sobriety, I think about those guys. A lot of the old timers think I think that they have it because they've been sober so long. But the longer I'm in the rooms, I realize that those guys, because they've been sober so long, they get closer to a drink than the people that aren't.
I totally agree with that. I think the road gets narrower the longer you're sober. And that's
Yes.
why I've had a lot of people tell me I'm like nuts because I'm very honest in meetings. And
I love that.
And when I'm struggling, I'm very open about it. And a lot of people go, wow, this guy's 19 years sober and that's where he's at.
That has nothing to do with it.
But it can look bad to somebody who is new because they're like, well, if that's where you're at in 19 years, I don't want to fucking, I don't want to be a part of this program.
Yeah.
You know, but I also think that someone that's around my sobriety age, if you're not honest, they're like going, I'm going through the same thing and I'm struggling. And that's why you see so many suicides.
But the way I look at it, it shows me
or they go back out. Yeah,
but it shows me that this is why you keep coming to the 12-step room, because you don't, we all are doing the best we can with today. It's one day at a time. Doesn't matter how long.
100%. And it's ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
Life still happens.
Some days are better than
divorce happens.
Yeah. It's lifing it. That's what we weren't able. I wasn't able to do that before I came in and worked the 12 steps. I didn't know how to live life.
Yeah. Clay came up to me like 6 months ago. And, after my divorce and just going through everything I went through, he just goes, I do not know how you stayed sober through that. And I said, I didn't know I had a choice.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, I know for me, that I have a responsibility to my children. I have a responsibility. I don't want to die.
And we say in the rooms that we can't keep you sober. I mean, I feel that once we lose someone, that breaks that link. It makes it weaker. So I think as we need each other. I know one person can't control the whole group, but when that one person leaves or something, they relapse or they die or whatever, that link is weaker.
I don't know, because see, the we to me was this when they say don't have reservations, and I had one. My dad never died. He was my best friend. My dad was an alcoholic. When my dad died, I was 1 year and 3 weeks sober. And group surrounded me and made sure I didn't do anything stupid. That's what the we means to me. That they surrounded me and made sure I didn't do anything stupid.
Right.
And that's what it's always meant to me, is that when you're struggling, the women or the
surround
men,
you.
Yes.
Until you get stronger.
Yeah, I mean,
put you in the middle of the herd.
There was people from that I didn't even really know because I was such a kind of like, I don't know if I was an outcast or shy. I remember one girl coming up to me. I remember when I first started going to Addison, and I said, I remember she was pulling up and she was playing Shania Twain, and I said, "Hey, Shania Twain," and she goes, and we ended up being really good friends. And I said, you were really kind of mean to me when I first started coming there. And she goes, well, I didn't expect you to stay sober, and I don't like to get close to people.
I know some people that do that.
Yeah, and I was just like,
they say that.
What a dick.
I heard people do that. I know people that do that, and some of them are my friends.
Yeah,
they don't get close because they want to see whether you're going to stick around.
That's the stupidest.
And see, I don't do that because I needed you guys.
I try to be nice to everybody. Now I am I'm not stand. Someone came up. I was at a group the other day, and a guy came up and said, "Oh, I didn't think you liked me." And I'm like, "Really?" And I was like, "I think I'm just more shy."
And they take it the opposite.
Yeah. And I was asking Mark, and I go, "Mark, am I standoffish?" He goes, "Not to me, but I know you." But he goes, "Maybe it's because you wear black all the time." And I was like,
"Leave it to him to tell you."
I was like,
yeah.
Okay. And
I guess you've never been that way with me.
Yeah.
I guess because I make people talk basically.
Well, I try to be nice to everybody,
I
you
don't
know,
see,
and you
yeah.
know, my ex-wife calls me Larry David, if you know who that is, you know, and that's a pretty accurate description, you know.
Yeah.
I kind of hate everybody, maybe. I don't know.
The people that say that, they're usually the people that are most lovable. You guys just, you just put on that demeanor that you like that, but you're not.
No,
I mean,
I love trying to just be funny and make people laugh, and
yeah.
you know, but I don't like stick around. I don't like go out like I used to because I have responsibilities. I have my kids. I got to go home. You know, life gets better and changes as you stay in the program. You know,
you brought up earlier about you want to know when you're gonna get your wife and family, and I used to sit there and think, when they would read the promises, I thought I was gonna get stuff.
Yeah.
And I would sit there and I would be so mad in the rooms because I hadn't got any stuff. I didn't realize that it wasn't stuff. It was that serenity and peace that I would receive.
Yeah.
But I wanted the material.
See, I did get stuff.
Did you?
Yeah. Because when I remember when I got sober, I lived with my parents. I couldn't get a checking account. I didn't have a library card. I didn't have a driver's license. I got an apartment when I was 6 months sober, and it was probably as big as this room, about 600 square feet.
I stayed in 600 square feet.
And I loved this place. I got on my knees every day and just said, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God." And then now, I have a mortgage. I have, a few cars. They're paid off, and I have, 2 kids, and I have a little bit of money in the bank, and not a lot, but a little bit, and so I did get stuff.
Yeah, I did, but it wasn't coming fast enough, put it that way.
Right.
And now I realize, and I said it's a lot, that even when it comes to this program, I get my higher power feeds it to me little at a time.
Yeah.
Because if I get it all at once, I'm going to think I got it and I'm going to graduate and you won't see me.
You see it in a rearview mirror is what you do. You don't realize it. And you sit there and you go, I don't have this. I don't have this. You don't have the spiritual growth. You don't have, and then all of a sudden you look in the rearview mirror and you go, holy cow, I was back here and I had nothing, absolutely nothing. And then look at me today. People call me like financial insecurity.
Yes.
That to me, and doing the 8th and 9th step is picking up the phone when it's an unknown number.
Yes.
It's opening the mailbox and not being scared.
Yes.
That's financial security to me. It's not being afraid to walk into any business or a grocery store afraid of who I'm going to run into.
Not watching out for the cop.
That's the problem. I literally, I speed on purpose now. And my friends will be like, hey, you're speeding. And I'm like, I know. Because I'm legal.
This is fun.
Yeah. Because I can. Yeah. I am totally legal now.
I know if I get stopped today, I'm not going to jail.
The worst thing they can do is give me a ticket.
Yeah.
What a great feeling that is.
I know, right?
And I'm actually...
And people think we're crazy.
I'm friends with cops. I hire cops. I was just doing some shows up in Boise in Utah with an artist, and all the cops, I get the patches and I collect them and I have them up behind in my office, and I have all these police badges, so patches from all these different states and cities, and it's like, and I used to be like where I'd see a cop and I'd be like, oh my God, I got to go to the different way, and now they're just men doing their job, they're good people. Now, a lot of people watching this are going to disagree with that, and hopefully one day you'll be in the same place I'm at, because I used to disagree with that statement that I just made. You know, I used to be the exact opposite of that. And there are bad cops out there. Don't get me wrong. There's bad grocery store clerks. You know, and
it's like the saying, and we have so many cheesy saying cliches. Everything I learned in the 12-step rooms. And because I didn't know how to live life sober.
No.
I didn't know how to do anything sober.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to be a mom. I didn't know how to be a worker. I didn't know how to be a friend. I didn't know how to be anything without.
I didn't know how to be on time.
On time was not important. Sometimes it's not important now, but I'm getting better. Progress, not perfection.
I remember Lizzie called me to come over and help her do her laundry, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I came over and tried to help her do her laundry.
Yeah.
And that's what we do, is we help each other out doing stuff that we didn't know how to do. You know, and every once in a while, you know, someone, you know, my ex-wife will tell me to do something. I'm like, I don't know how to do that.
Well,
you know?
let me show you. How do you do it?
I'm like, I have no idea how to do this, because I've never done that in my entire life. You know, while other people went to college and, you know, had normal lives, I was out partying. You know,
it's so many things that we miss out on.
I call
people don't realize. You know, when I tell some people that I have the mind of an addict and alcoholic, they don't get that. I can tell you that same thing, and you immediately know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, certain things that even now sometimes I have to talk to my sponsor and say, I don't understand what they're expecting of me, or I don't understand how to handle that situation.
Yeah.
And she has to tell me.
I know.
Something so simple. And it's simple when she says it. And it's like, I should know that, right?
Yeah.
But I don't.
A normal person would know that. Well, my car always says, if you ever wonder if you're normal or not, turn to the person next to you and go, what would your sponsor say? You know?
Yeah.
And they'll see the reaction on their face. You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I called Mark the other day and said, hey, dude, how do you invest money? You know, because I know he does that. And I'm like, how do you do that? And I've had to call people and say, hey, I'm going to buy my first car. How do you do that?
I do.
What, you know, I'm doing this. How do you do that? You know?
Yeah.
And the good thing is there's somebody that does everything.
Lloyd Johnson used to say, everything you need is right in those rooms. And with doing silver lining, I have learned how true that is. Because most of the times if I like you know, like Jeff, would you be on silver lining? Oh yeah. Most of the time I don't get people, a few of them would say no, but it makes up with the people that don't say no. Does that make sense?
I was always told you never say no.
Yes than no. I have more yeses than nos, and that's what I look at. And it's like, I wouldn't be successful with doing this podcast, Silver Lining, if it wasn't for you guys, especially my group. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Yeah. And what a blessing that I get to.
I love doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
Oh, and you asked me earlier, like how I stay sober in the environment I'm in. Like one of my stipulations that I do before I go out on a tour or anything like that is I have to be on a sober bus or soberish bus.
Okay.
You know, so
like, they have that.
Yeah. Well, that's my personal stipulation. I will not go on a party bus.
Okay.
If someone wants to have a beer or a glass of wine, I'm totally cool with that. But I will not go on a party bus where people are doing cocaine and smoking tons of weed.
Okay.
You know, I will quit the tour.
But Jeff, I know we've been going on and on. I can talk to you forever. We've been talking almost an hour.
I can't believe that.
And we're gonna wrap it up. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate you being on Silver Lining. What a blessing.
Well, I love you.
I love you too.
You're the bestest.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed Jeff as much as I did. And once again, if nobody tells you that they love you, hear from us here at Silver Lining Nation. We love you. Take care, y'all, and we talk to you later. Bye.